thank you all for coming. I got the graveyard shift, so it's really nice to see people, so many faces. Yes, so I'm Thomas Manandhar-Richardson. People call me Richie. I split my week between two different organisations. Half the time I am the Director of Research at Bryant Research. We're a think tank devoted to the animal advocacy movement. The other half of the week I'm the Director of Data and AI at Greener by Default, which is a climate/animal kind of food NGO, helping caterers to implement plant-forward menus that people don't hate. So I'm going to be talking to you about the deep research revolution. Before I get started, has anybody used a deep research tool? So ChatGPT deep research, Gemini deep research? Okay, plenty of people, good. So for those of you who haven't, I'm going to show you something a bit scary, or perhaps a bit exciting. So, I'm doing a project at the moment, just wrapped it up, on basically on trying to tackle factory farming in Latin America and Southeast Asia. And so I turned to Gemini Deep Research and I asked it to basically write me a report on the feasibility of defunding industrial livestock in Latin America and Southeast Asia. And within about 20 minutes, it basically did this. So, you don't have to read it, you just have to see that it's really long, and it addresses many different things. And it has, look at all this table, look, we've got Argentina, we've got Brazil, we've got Latin America more generally, we've got actor types, we've got multilateral development banks, specific examples, the international finance corporations, we've got known funding or investment examples, we've got and all sorts. So we've got a big old table, we've got Brazil, we've got Argentina, Southeast Asia more generally, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, it keeps going. And if we scroll all the way to the end, we get to the references and we find it has 147 references, right? Now I use this as fodder for my report. I did not turn this report in. You'll be happy to know, but I did use it as fodder, and while I did not check every single reference. The references that I used in my report, not a single one was wrong. All of them were pretty darn good. In fact, in doing this project, I actually generated about, I think I'm up to 19 deep research reports on various aspects of my question. 19 reports, each one about 30 pages, over 100 references. And I used about every corner of what I was researching. And then I read those things, I looked at the links, I synthesized more information, and I kind of pulled it all together, and I turned it in yesterday, and it was like 14,000 words. I'm really tired. But anyway, so if you guys have done, those of you who have generated deep research reports, did you guys have like a similar moment when you made a report and you were just like, what the hell is going on? Okay, put your hand up if you were scared the first time you read a deep research report. Okay, put your hand up if you were excited. Put your hand up if you thought, I'm out of a job. Cool. Okay, brilliant. So these tools are pretty phenomenal. They only really landed this year. So we have tools from ChatGPT. We have Gemini has one. There are quite a few others on the market, but those are the two main ones. Those are the ones I mainly advise using. And as I showed you, they're pretty darn good. But I'll bring you all back down to earth. Bring myself back down to earth. They do have some limitations. In fact, the huge one that many people seem not to be aware of is that they can't get through paywalls. So that report had 147 references. Not a single one was a peer-reviewed academic article, except, I think 10 or 20 were, but it was only open access articles. It cannot access non-open access articles, and I don't think it can access the New York Times as well. So paywalled journalism can often be a struggle as well. And so that is a critical thing to bear in mind, right, when doing these things. Secondly, in our extensive testing at Bryant Research, we have a team of researchers, we kind of tend to find that it will find about 9 out of 10 of the good kind of sources. There always seems to be one important source that we know of that it misses, right? So this is why you shouldn't just turn in a deep research report as a piece of your own work. Often it will be quite an important source. So again, that's a key limitation. It often doesn't differentiate between primary and secondary sources. Sometimes it will just quote the press release of a report rather than the report itself, or it will quote someone talking about a report. And then obviously there are the usual caveats about AI tools. You should be checking the references. So, okay, well, what kind of questions are these things useful for, right? They can produce 30 pages and 147 references, but they can't get through paywalls, right? So this is a tool that is, the best tool ever, but also the worst tool ever. So what kinds of questions should we be using this for? So the first one is fast tracking the first few weeks of Googling, right? So if you know nothing about a topic, which is a feeling will be very familiar to the consultants in the room, it can get you out of the starting blocks very quickly. The next one is what I call kind of T-shaped research, right? So you think about the letter T. The letter T has a deep kind of stalk, and then it has a broad crossbar, right? So often when we are researchers, we will have something that we are an expert in, right? And that's this bit of the T here, deep human expertise. But when we write reports, we don't just write about exactly what we know. We also bring in other things. We might bring in kind of like case studies from things from adjacent fields, the latest kind of news. We often range across topics, right? And deep research is very good at basically filling out this kind of crossbar, pulling in all sorts of different broad topics that you can add to your report. So you can build your reports around a core of your expertise, your deep expertise, and then you can have AI essentially add all these different kind of flourishes and really enrich your work. It's better for bigger picture thinking than fact collecting, right? So we mentioned 9 out of 10 key sources, right? You shouldn't really rely on it to find all the information on a topic for you. And so I would say it's best just not to ask those kind of questions at all. What's better is to ask for more like kind of bigger picture things, right? So I asked about Latin America and Southeast Asia, right? As if, it would never, there would be entire books, right, full of, if I wanted it to get all that information. But if I wanted just some jumping off points, right? I wanted the bigger picture across the region, those kinds of things. They're quite useful for that. The next one is like low stakes research that you wouldn't do otherwise, right? So you might have research questions that, you might have 100 different research questions that pop into your head every day, and you just don't have time to pursue them. But if you have an AI tool that can generate large research reports in like minutes, then it means that certain questions that just weren't certain tangents you wouldn't have followed, you can now follow. So say for example, so I was kind of hoping that Aaron Body from Shrimp Welfare Project would be in this room because he said he was coming to my talk. But anyway, say I'm going to meet with Aaron. He's and I want to know about shrimp welfare. I don't know too much about it. Before a meeting with him, I could generate a deep research report, and I could say, what's the latest in crustacean consciousness, right? What are the recent policy developments should I be aware of? What are the and I might say, okay, give me the lowdown on the Shrimp Welfare Project specifically, right? So I could generate that report in 10 minutes. I can skim it. I don't need to be an expert. I'm just going to a meeting with him. But it can give me some things that I can then talk to him about, right? Also, infeasible research that you also wouldn't otherwise do. So something I'm interested in at the moment is the recent trade deal between EU and Mercosur, trade of agricultural products and things. And it's a trade deal between two continents. There are a lot of different players in the mix. So I used the deep research report to generate specifically about France's involvement in this deal, right? I picked one European country and I said, what's France's involvement in the EU-Mercosur deal? What are their positions? What are their, that kind of thing, right? And I could do that for every single country in Europe if I wanted to. Right? I could generate a deep research report. I could say, okay, what's France's deal? What's Germany's deal? I could, for Mercosur, I could say, what's Brazil's deal? What's Chile's deal? and stuff like that. It would be totally infeasible for me to research into that level of granularity without these tools. But I can do that, and then I can kind of skim the reports, and I can take what I need from it. So I think the kind of philosophy you should approach these tools with is that deep research tools are not a replacement researcher. They are a buffet for your inner researcher, right? They can generate tons and tons of stuff, of content, of grist for the mill that you can use to fuel your own research efforts, to fuel your curiosity, and to basically enrich your understanding of the world. So ChatGPT, Gemini, and perhaps Claude are the main ones, but as I said, they can't get through paywalls. There are tools that you can do if you want more academic papers. So really, the one I found is the leader here is Elicit. Elicit will only search academic databases. It will only return answers from peer-reviewed kind of papers. And Elicit's quite good as well because it's quite good at data extraction, so it can look at the top 50 papers relevant to your query, and it will extract all the sample sizes of the study. Like, this looked at 200 people, this looked at 400 people from Brazil, this looked at 600 Argentinians. It can extract information. It can say, 12 of these studies were carried out in this country, 12 of the studies were carried out here. So it can extract information. This is quite good. Free plan's quite limited. But I would say that if you do academic research, I would pay for a month, give it a try, see what you can do with it. Same thing with Cite. Cite is quite similar. They have a really cool tool where they can show you the citations that an article has, but they will categorize it into positive, negative, and neutral. So if you see that an article has been cited 50 times, that might be 50 people pointing out how crap it is, or it might be 50 people building on that work. Cite can tell you whether future work supported or kind of contested these papers. That's pretty cool. SciSpace, pretty similar to those two. Perplexity, many people don't know this, so Perplexity has a deep research feature. You get 3 free goes a day. However, you can get it to only search academic articles just by doing this. So if we click on research, where we go, I'll just go research, and if we go here, look, I'll zoom in. Oh, I can't zoom in. Set sources for search. If I turn off web and I turn on academic, it's only going to search the Semantic Scholar database, which is a database of academic articles. So even though Perplexity's deep research is not nearly as good as the others, it's pretty weak by the standards of the others. You do have this 3 free goes a day, and you can have it only generate academic articles. So this is a nice little hack. And that's pretty cool. If you in case you're wondering, the social one just searches Reddit. So if you're interested in knowing about what, I don't know, some of the worst people in the world think about your topic, then go for it. Anyway, so here are some ideas that I am but one man, and my team is small. There's only so much experimenting we can do with these tools, and I think the thing about them is they develop so quickly, and there's so many of them that you cannot just rely on someone like me to stand up here and say, I know everything, here is what I know, right? We all need to be working together as a research community of peers to experiment with these tools and share these experiences with each other, right? We are in a wonderful situation, which is that we are not all at various companies that are competing with each other, right? We don't have okay, maybe academic labs compete or whatever, but it's mostly friendly competition. But we're all kind of in this because we want to make the world a better place. We're all on the same team. And so when you do experiments with these tools, I highly encourage you to share the results, like you shared the results of yours with other people, because that's how we're going to figure out the best use cases. In fact, quite selfishly, half the reason I give these talks is so that people will come out the woodwork and tell me better ways to do things that I'm already doing, right? Because I'm not going to know everything. So here are some ideas that I haven't quite fully explored. That if any of them resonate with you, go try them. Let me know. So the first one is prompts for listening to reports. So has anyone used 11 Labs Reader? The 11 Labs Reader app? Yeah.
You mean the podcast? There's also a podcast one.
There's Notebook LM as well, yeah. And there's so 11 Labs Reader is an app by 11 Labs, who are the industry leaders in text to speech, right? I uploaded a deep research report to the 11 Labs Reader app, and it came up with this.
Defunding industrial livestock farming in Latin America and Southeast Asia. 1. Executive summary. This report analyzes the feasibility of campaigns aimed at defunding industrial livestock farming in selected countries across Latin America, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico.
It's very human-like. Don't ask why it has a German accent. I chose it. I find it quite fun to listen to. But I love German. So I have generated a deep research report. I've put it into this. I can now listen to the report on the go, right? But
I was just going to ask, so can you upload any PDF? Like
yes.
if you have a research article?
11 Labs Reader can take more or less anything, and it will read it out in natural language. However, it will stumble on things. So, for example, if there's like a DOI, like a URL, it will like read out. It will go HTTPS, and it's a nightmare, right? But so what I'm thinking is, are there ways we can prompt deep research reports to generate a report that is optimized for being listened to, right? If you guys have ever tried to listen to an academic paper, like being read out by a text-to-speech, it's not a great experience. These papers are not optimized to be listened to. They're optimized to be read, right? And so if you can I'm wondering, is there just a way we can prompt these models that can get it to produce something that is like optimal for listening to, right? Because we all get eye strain. Listening is great because you can do it whilst walking the dog away. Next one, detailed data analysis. Here's a cool one I've only done once, right? Upload a spreadsheet to deep research and say, analyze this data, right? Say, analyze this data, don't search the internet if you don't need to, use Python, right? Because ultimately, deep research is actually just Gemini or ChatGPT under the hood. And it's one of the best Python, both of them are some of the best Python programs in the world. I uploaded a spreadsheet to deep research and it came back with a 3,000 word data analysis, right? It used Python to analyze the data. So it basically it read in the data, it produced graphs, it analyzed, and it was pretty amazing. And I'm like, I need to see how deep this rabbit hole goes, right? So this is not the intended use case of deep research. I didn't actually have it go away, search the internet and then synthesize the information. The deep research report it gave me had no references in it. It literally just spent half an hour churning away on the spreadsheet I gave it using Python, which is not what the tool was built for. But the thing about large language models is they're general tools, right? You can just trick them into doing all sorts of things, right? If you ask ChatGPT to spit out a .ppt file, it will. And if you open that in PowerPoint, it will be a PowerPoint. Right, that's not written down anywhere. It can just do that because it just uses code. Next one, update a report every year. Okay, the problem with doing research reports is as soon as you write them, they're out of date. So what you can do is you can upload a report that you wrote last year to deep research and say, tell me about all the new developments on this topic in the last year, right? And then that might be actually a scalable way to very quickly keep all of your reports that you've ever written up to date. Kind of indefinitely, maybe. I feel like there's a workflow there, right? That every time one of your reports turns 5 years old, you use deep research, and in about 3 or 4 days, you might be able to update it to the current state of whatever you wrote the report about, right? So that's an exciting. I haven't tried this, but it's something that if you try it, let me know. Write a rebuttal for your report. So I do this. This is great. Just upload your report to deep research and say, write an extremely detailed rebuttal of the following report and just see what it says. We all want to steel man our opponents. Less charitably, you can upload your enemies' reports to deep research and ask it to generate these rebuttals. It's pretty good at that. So I uploaded the Dublin Declaration, which is this load of meat scientists all got together and published a giant op-ed, and the meat industry scientists, sorry. I uploaded it to deep research and I was like, write rebuttal. And it was pretty good. It hit quite a lot of useful points. Localize your report to a different country. So many of you will have been in Jiang's talk earlier about how there's just not that much research on countries outside of Europe and US. So one thing we can do is and often the reports we do on, for example, Europe or the States, just don't really apply to different cultural contexts. So one thing you can try is taking a report and saying hey, write this report, but for this country, right? So I recently wrote a report on UK food security and how factory farming is in fact bad for UK food security. Well, what I could do is I could upload that report to Deep Research and say, try to write this report exactly, but do it for Thailand, right? And like, we'll see what comes out. The idea would be that it would search for more Thai-specific sources, but it would have a blueprint that it could follow, that it would then use to produce a report. So you could essentially you could take any report about any country, and then see if you can just localize it to any other country, right? I feel like this could be a powerful tool, for example, for localizing a lot more of our research to, for example, underserved geographies. Although there is obviously the obvious caveat that if your geography just isn't that well served, like on the internet, like Nepal or something, then these tools may not be hugely useful.
Do you think there's a risk of doing that you could like overfit to say there's like very specific idiosyncrasies to like British farming, and then say make an equivalent report, it will ignore entire sectors and things that don't exist in that thing, and then just stick to the frame of the
It's an excellent point. Yeah. So you might have to put in the prompt like, feel free to come to different conclusions if that's what the data says, or point out different, or you could just ask it to generate a comparison report. That is an excellent point, because you don't want to necessarily say like, hey, I found this, please find the same conclusion somewhere else, right? Last one, generate 2 deep research reports, same topic, but ask it for opposing viewpoints. Just say like, you are a meat industry scientist, write this report. You are a vegan activist, write this report. Yeah, just one last thing is, some of you, if you're researchers, might be feeling quite scared about these tools. And I kind of jokingly say, let's just pour petrol on the fires of our own demise. Because I actually don't think that it's going to replace researchers. I think, if anything, it's going to create the world that we as researchers want, which is a world where everyone uses research to make decisions, and they demand research before making decisions, right? We want a society that has an abundance of research, and these tools build that future. So I don't think really we have much to be concerned about as researchers. So I would say that if you're a researcher concerned about these tools burning down your career, you're more fireproof than you think, and fire is with. So I want to leave you with this question for the unconference over the next 2 days, for the pub this evening. What's a researcher to do in 2025 now that we have these tools, right? Like, that's something I think I'm still figuring out, and I'd love to know what you think. Thank you very much.